After losing my husband, I moved into my son's basement. One morning, I heard him tell his wife, "Let's dump her at a nursing home this weekend." She replied, "Finally." I'm sick of her sad face. I left before sunrise. By evening, they came home to discover what I left behind. I never thought I'd end up like this. Not after all the years I gave to others. I was always the one people could count on. I took care of my parents until the end. I supported my husband when he lost his job back in the 90s. I worked full-time and still made dinner every night. I went to church. I followed the rules. And when we had our son Eric, I thought my life had found its purpose. Eric was everything to me. I poured my heart into raising him. Robert, my husband, worked long shifts at the post office, and I picked up extra tutoring jobs to save for Eric's college. We didn't have much, but we scraped and saved. I packed him lunches until high school. I sat in the front row at every school play and parent-teacher night. We thought we were building something solid, a family that stuck together. That's what I believed. When Robert died, my world cracked in half. 42 years. That's how long we were married. We had routines, quiet mornings, Sunday drives. We never needed big vacations or fancy things. We were just content. And then one morning, he was gone. A stroke. I watched the life leave his eyes right in our living room while I was still on the phone with 911. Eric flew in the next day. Jenna stayed home with the kids, which I understood. She'd never really liked me much, but I figured she was just one of those private types. Distant. I gave her space. I never wanted to be that mother-in-law. After the funeral, Eric said, "Mom, why don't you come stay with us for a while? Until you figure things out." I said no at first. I didn't want to intrude. But he pushed. "You'll have your own space in the basement," he said. "It'll be good for the girls to spend more time with you." I should have listened to my gut. The basement was clean, finished, and quiet. It had a little bathroom, a couch, and a small TV. I tried to make it feel like home. I brought my quilt, my books, a few framed photos. I figured I'd be there 3 months, 6 at most, while I sold a house and figured out if I wanted to rent or maybe move closer to my sister in Indiana. But something shifted after the first few weeks. Jenna barely spoke to me. When she did, it was clipped, like she was keeping score. One morning I offered to help with the girls' breakfast and she said, "I've got it," without looking up from her phone. I offered to babysit so they could go on a date night. She said, "We already made plans, sorry." Eric stopped coming down to check in. When I tried to talk to him, he was always busy or tired. "I'll call you later, Mom," he'd say. But he never did. I felt like a stranger in their home. I started to tiptoe. I tried to stay out of the kitchen when Jenna was around. I kept my TV volume low. I stopped going upstairs unless I needed to. The girls were sweet to me, but I could tell Jenna didn't like when they spent time downstairs. Still, I kept telling myself it was temporary. I was grieving. Maybe I was being too sensitive. I kept making excuses for them. Until that morning. It was still dark out. I hadn't been sleeping well, so I came upstairs early to make some tea. I didn't make a sound, but then I heard them. Eric was at the kitchen table. Jenna was at the sink. He said it just like that, cold, casual, like they were deciding what to do with old furniture. "Let's just dump her at a nursing home this weekend. I'll find one nearby. She'll be fine." Jenna didn't even pause. She just said, "Finally." I'm sick of her sad face. They both laughed. My hands were shaking. I backed away from the kitchen and went back down to the basement, one step at a time like I was walking through water. I sat on the edge of the bed for over an hour. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just sat there, feeling this heat rise in my chest. Not anger. Not yet. Just a deep, awful pain. Like I was being erased. I didn't sleep that night. I packed instead. By 4 a.m. the next morning, I was gone. I left behind the key. No note. No explanation. But I didn't leave empty-handed. That basement? It held more than they knew. Robert and I kept a small safe hidden in the storage room. Inside were old savings bonds, worth about $25,000. We'd put them in Eric's name for emergencies or maybe one day for our grandkids. I took them. I also took back the things that were mine. The piano in their living room, a gift from me and Robert on their wedding day. It was listed under my name in our insurance records. I called a moving company and had it picked up 2 days later. The quilt Jenna liked to brag about on Instagram, handmade by my MIL, that was my grandmother's. I took it. The antique dresser in their guest room, my gray tants. I took that too. And the small fund Jenna kept in a jar marked vacation. That was my emergency cash I'd tucked away years ago for safekeeping when Eric was still in college. I took that back too. Before I left, I wrote 2 letters, one to each of my granddaughters. I told them I loved them. I told them to be strong, to be kind, to speak up when someone makes them feel small. I left each of them a bracelet I'd bought last Christmas and never gave them. No letter for Eric. No note for Jenna. I disappeared. After I left, I went quiet. I stayed at a small extended stay motel near Aurora for a week while I got my bearings. I didn't tell anyone where I was. Not my sister, not old friends. I needed space. Silence. Time to think. But it didn't take long for the phone calls to start. At first, just a few missed calls from Eric. Then texts. Short and sharp. Mom, where are you? You can't just disappear. We need to talk. Seriously. I ignored them. Then Jenna texted. That was childish. You made things harder than they had to be. No apology. No regret. Just that. A week passed. Then 2. The calls stopped. That's when I heard from a lawyer. Apparently, Eric and Jenna had spoken to someone about reclaiming property they believed was improperly taken. I wasn't surprised. Jenna always thought everything belonged to her the moment it entered their house. The lawyer tried to sound professional, but I could hear the edge in his voice, like he didn't even believe their story. I calmly provided my documentation, original purchase receipts, insurance paperwork, legal proof the savings bonds were under Robert and my names, with no legal obligation to Eric. The lawyer went quiet after that. So did Eric. For almost a month. Then one day, out of nowhere, I get a voicemail from Eric. He sounded different. Not angry. Not cold. Broken. Mom, I didn't mean what I said. It came out wrong. We were stressed. Jenna didn't mean it either. Can we just talk? Please. I played that voicemail 3 times. And each time, I felt the same thing. Nothing. That version of him, the son I raised, was gone. Or maybe I had never known who he truly was when things got hard. But I wasn't finished yet. You see, I had been watching. Quietly. Jenna ran an online business, a wellness blog with sponsorship deals. She posted daily, cooking videos, yoga tips, parenting quotes. Her whole image was built around being nurturing and inspiring. I knew her followers adored her. So, I created a new account. I didn't post anything. I just watched. And one day, when she posted a reel titled, Multigenerational Living, a blessing, not a burden. Smiling while stirring soup, saying how honored she felt to have her mother-in-law live with them. I took a screenshot. And I left a comment. Just one sentence, under a burner name. You mean the same MIL you wanted to dump at a nursing home because you were sick of her sad face? I didn't expect anything, but others saw it. They started asking questions. One of her old followers replied, "Wait, what?" Another asked, "Is this real?" Jenna deleted the video within hours. Then she took a week off posting. Her follower count dropped. 2 sponsors pulled out quietly. I didn't gloat. I didn't post again. I just watched her image crumble a little. That wasn't the end of it. At night, I'd lie in bed thinking about every time I gave more than I should have. Every time I ignored the tension, played nice, stayed quiet. I had let myself shrink so others could feel tall. Not anymore. I hired an estate planner. Changed my will. Everything that used to be earmarked for Eric and the girls, now split between charities, my sister, and 2 scholarships I started in Robert's name for kids from working-class families. One in education, one in postal service careers. But I did leave something for the girls. Just not in the way Jenna or Eric would expect. A month after that final voicemail, I thought the dust had finally settled. I was renting a small one-bedroom apartment in Plainfield, not far from a library and a quiet park. It was peaceful, and I kept to myself. Then the school called. Not mine, one of my granddaughters. The younger one, Lily, had listed me as an emergency contact on a field trip form from before I left. The school couldn't reach her parents and needed someone to pick her up due to a stomach bug. I paused. They shouldn't have listed me anymore. But they had. That little girl remembered me. I went. Lily looked pale and scared when I got there, sitting on a bench with her backpack clutched in her lap. When she saw me, her whole face lit up. "Grandma," she whispered. She came running. I held her. She felt like home. As I signed her out, the receptionist said, "Oh, thank you." Jenna hasn't answered her phone all day. She's been harder to reach lately. I didn't say anything. I just nodded. When I brought Lily to their house, Jenna yanked open the door, furious. "What are you doing here?" she snapped. I handed her daughter over gently. The school called me. I was still on the emergency contact. Her eyes darted around like she thought neighbors might be watching. She didn't even thank me. "Don't come here again," she said. "This is confusing for them." Before I left, Lily turned back. "Can I come visit you, Grandma?" Jenna froze. I didn't answer. I just looked at Jenna and said, "That's up to your mother." And then I walked away. The next twist came 3 weeks later. A woman named Melissa emailed me through my burner account, the one I used to comment on Jenna's social media. She said she used to work with Jenna on a wellness brand. Apparently, word had spread quietly in their small influencer circle that Jenna's multi-generational harmony narrative was a lie. One of her sponsors, a major cookware brand, had pulled all ties and even sent her a cease and desist for using their name after discovering the discrepancy between her brand and her personal actions. Melissa said she didn't like drama, but she believed in accountability. She shared screenshots of group chats Jenna had been part of, mocking followers, making passive-aggressive comments about me, calling me a martyr in a cardigan. I didn't share them. I didn't need to, but I printed them for safekeeping. Meanwhile, Eric reached out again. This time, he left a longer voicemail. "Mom, Jenna's been having a hard time. The blog is falling apart and things are tense. I think we made a mistake. I made a mistake. I was trying to make life easier for everyone and look, can we just talk? Please." It almost sounded like a real apology, but I knew better now. The biggest twist came not from them, but from the girls. On my birthday, a small envelope showed up at my apartment. No return address. Inside were 2 hand-drawn cards. One from Lily, one from her older sister, Ava. Lily said, "I miss your cookies. I miss our movie nights." Ava said, "I wish we could live with you instead." I sat at the kitchen table for almost an hour, holding those cards. I didn't cry, but I felt something crack open inside me. Something that hadn't healed yet. Maybe it never will. Those girls still remembered the woman their parents tried to erase. They still loved me. That was all the proof I needed. But the final move, the one that would finish all of this, was still coming. I was going to make sure Eric and Jenna understood exactly what they had lost. Not just money, not just reputation, but family, legacy, and the one person who had ever truly been in their corner. I waited until fall to make my final move. I wanted to do it right. Clean. Not out of rage. Out of clarity. Robert and I had always planned to leave something lasting. Not just for Eric, but for the next generation. After he died, I realized I didn't owe that legacy to blood. I owed it to values, to kindness, to effort. So I finalized the 2 scholarship funds I'd started in Robert's name. One went to Joliet Central High School, where I used to teach. It would support first-generation college students who wanted to become teachers. The other went to a scholarship foundation run by the National Postal Workers Union for kids of postal workers, just like Robert had been. Both were funded with the money I'd reclaimed, the bonds, the emergency cash, the equity from selling my house. I made sure they were legally locked, publicly acknowledged, and impossible for Eric or Jenna to touch. At the scholarship launch event, I gave a short speech. I didn't name names, but I told the truth. I used to think family was something you were born into, I said, my voice steady. But now I believe family is who shows up for you when you're grieving. It's who holds your hand when you're scared, not who you share a last name with. The room clapped. I didn't smile. I just walked off stage and left before the reception. A week later, I sent one last package to Eric and Jenna's house. Inside were copies of the scholarship announcements clipped from local papers. 2 framed photos, one of Robert and me, and one of the girls playing in our old backyard years ago. And a handwritten letter. I didn't threaten. I didn't accuse. I just told them the truth. You tried to push me out of your lives like I was a piece of old furniture. But I took back my worth, and I used it to build something bigger than both of you. Your daughters will know who I was, because the world will remember. And you? You'll have to explain why your names are nowhere on anything I've left behind. I mailed it. Then I changed my phone number. I left no forwarding address. 2 months later, my sister called to tell me Eric had tried to reach her. She told him I was done. Truly done. I live quietly now. I volunteer at the library. I bake when I feel like it. I get birthday cards from the scholarship kids I help sponsor. And every now and then, I pull out those 2 hand-drawn cards from Lily and Ava. That's all I need to remember who I am. Because I may have lost a son, but I reclaimed myself. And in doing that, I got the last word.